Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a completely radical, super high-stakes case study. We're looking at an enterprise software CEO who basically surveyed the entire technological landscape and gave his company a stark choice: become AI native or hit the exit. Look, this isn't a story about gentle corporate nudges or polite suggestions. It's a raw, unfiltered look at a complete organizational rewrite. Seriously, think about your own team for a second. We all have totally varying levels of tech adoption in our workplaces, right? Well, the company in our source material faced exactly this dilemma, but on a massive scale. They realized pretty quickly that waiting around for organic, polite adoption was a luxury they simply did not have. This quote perfectly captures the mindset of this CEO. He completely understood that incremental change wasn't just slow, it was genuinely dangerous. To him, avoiding irrelevance required a totally new organizational DNA. This wasn't about slightly improving profit margins by a few percentage points. It was, in his own words, completely existential. Let's ground ourselves in the timeline of just how wildly fast this total organizational transformation happened. I mean, in the enterprise world, a fundamental shift like this usually takes half a decade at least. Here, we're talking about one single calendar year. From their initial assessments at the end of 2023, all the way to running at 75% margins by the end of 2024. Let's break down exactly how they pulled off the impossible. Section 1. The evaluation, ranking the workforce. So the first absolutely crucial step kicked off at the end of 2023. And what's really interesting here is that leadership didn't evaluate the employees top-down. The employees actually evaluated themselves. Based on self-reported metrics like how many custom GPTs they'd written or who they followed for industry news, an AI graded the workforce into 3 distinct buckets. The whole goal was to figure out exactly where the cultural bottlenecks were. Those in the third bucket, literally labeled in the basement, just openly admitted they weren't trying very hard to adapt at all. Moving to Section 2, AI Mondays, the ultimatum to adapt. To force people out of that bottom basement bucket, leadership dropped a massive, totally unprecedented policy in the first quarter of 2024. They called it AI Mondays. They dedicated a staggering 20% of their total payroll, literally an entire quarter of Mondays, exclusively to AI education and skill building. Think about the sheer financial cost of taking 1/5 of your company's working hours and just ripping it away from normal operations. And let's be clear, this wasn't some casual suggestion or a polite Friday lunch and learn. It was a strict mandate. The CEO literally forbade employees from doing their standard work on Mondays. No customer calls allowed. No regular spreadsheets, unless you were actively using AI to help you build them. Imagine the initial panic of being banned from doing your actual job. But it was brilliant because it completely eliminated the excuse of not having the time to level up. They forced the workforce to accept the gift of time. Which brings us to Section 3, the great turnover, rebuilding the core team. At the end of that 90-day sprint, they didn't rely on subjective talent reviews. They tracked actual tool usage to gauge pure engagement. The CEO accepted a really hard truth, flat out calling his company a benevolent dictatorship. He knew that some people, even senior leaders with years of deep institutional knowledge, would self-select out just because they didn't buy into the vision. This obviously led to massive, incredibly difficult turnover. Basically, if you weren't going to row in the exact same direction, you had to get off the boat. So they had to rebuild the ship while sailing it, and fast. They aggressively went out hunting for what they called repressed AI enthusiasts. You know, people who desperately wanted to leverage AI but were constantly blocked by red tape at their old jobs. To prove how serious they were, they changed every single job title to include AI Innovation Specialist, whether you worked in finance, legal, or marketing. And to guarantee absolute cultural alignment, the CEO personally interviewed every single candidate. No exceptions. Section 4, the payout, creating versus cutting. By the end of Q2, that core team was completely rebuilt, and the operational payout by the end of 2024, it was nothing short of staggering. The bold gamble totally worked. The newly formed, highly engaged company finished the year operating their existing business at an incredibly efficient 75% margin. That's a massive, undeniable proof point that an AI-native workforce can drastically alter the fundamental financial reality of an enterprise. But here's the real kicker. The goal was never just boring cost-cutting or replacing human beings to save a few dollars. The CEO noted that focusing only on efficiency is incredibly limiting. The real magic of this transformation was shifting human capital toward pure creation. It was about empowering people to stop doing repetitive corporate busywork and actually start doing their best, most creative work. This newfound freedom totally unleashed the team. People across all departments started building brand new products from scratch. For instance, they built My Personas, literal AI clones of actual team members, like the HR manager, to handle routine questions, complete with seamless, real-time escalation to the real person if the bot got stuck. They also built an always-on-tone email autoresponder called Eloquence AI. And the best part? These weren't built by some siloed engineering team in the basement. Finance and marketing folks were writing these apps.
Section 5, the tech stack, governance and tooling.
So what are they actually using every single day? At a bleeding-edge level, their daily toolkit leans heavily on Perplexity and Anthropic's Claude. But the absolute golden rule of their governance model, and this is absolutely crucial, is that employees are mandated to always buy the paid pro versions of these tools. Why? Absolute data privacy. Paying guarantees that zero internal company data is ever siphoned off to retrain public language models.
Because this tech stack is so deeply ingrained, they aren't just hiring for basic AI skills anymore. They screen exclusively for what they call AI DNA. It's this instinctual habit where an employee's brain naturally reaches for an AI tool to solve literally any problem. Like, if a job candidate didn't use an AI tool to research the company and prep for their interview, they are instantly disqualified.
Section 6, Battling Complacency, the ongoing fight. Yet even with the massive success, the complete cultural turnover, and those record-breaking margins, the CEO remains incredibly paranoid about getting complacent. They fight this every single day with really strict cultural rules. Employees are literally forced to aggressively argue with the AI to push back against its annoying people-pleasing bias. On their Slack channels, you can't just drop a link to some AI news. You must have actually benchmarked the new tool yourself. And my favorite part? They intentionally do not have a head of AI, because the moment you have a head of AI, everyone else assumes it's just that one person's job. Here, it is everyone's job. I want to leave you with a really provocative thought straight out of their advanced hiring playbook. They are actively starting to ask candidates, how do you plan to spend the equivalent of 50% of your salary on AI token burn this year? Basically asking, how heavily will you leverage raw AI compute power? It totally flips the traditional corporate cost script on its head. So ask yourself and take a long, hard look at your own team. If you aren't burning a massive amount of tokens right now, are you truly adapting to the future? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.